Moneyball's here to talk screening for our pulling. And for this one, we're really just going to look at shoulder mobility and cars again, much like our pushing lesson. And most of the same principles are going to apply here. If someone can't get into a good overhead position without losing control of their middle, we've got to think about any kind of rowing that we would do that would put them in that position. So chin-ups, pull-ups, and we need to make sure that we don't take them there before they're actually ready. And if their shoulder mobility is not up to par, we have to figure out, well, where is it that the shoulder's not moving well? Where could this turn into pain? And make sure that we're keeping them in range of motion, ranges of motion that they can manage. So not to oversimplify this one, but it's taking what we have from the shoulder mobility screen and the shoulder cars and making sure that we're keeping people in those ranges to stay successful with their training. Walk in, make sure the height. Oh! All right. Height's good on the handles. That's how you check the height of the handles. I thought he was going to calmly walk it to me, but if you were standing on a bench and your client were to walk the handle to you, it should wind up groin height. Science. Okay. Whew, my heart rate's up now. All right. So now we're going to talk rowing. Chin-ups, dumbbell rows, bent over rows, inverted rows, boat rows, all kinds of rows, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start with an inverted row. Now, much like the push-up for pushing, this is nothing more than a moving plank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Todd go ahead and get into the bottom of the inverted row position. And this should look like an upside down plank. So you'll notice that he's not trying to keep his toes on the floor. If he does that, it's going to shoot him into extension. Okay, so whenever he rolls back, he should be on his heels. And he's going to be in a nice tall and tight plank position. Now, from here, it's nothing more than a moving plank. So he's going to go from that position, and just like he talked about the bench, he's not going to pull this thing straight down because then he's going to wind up way up high and very, uncomfortable looking. He's going to pull this thing down and wind up somewhere outside of his ribs, probably around his armpits, a little bit lower. Okay? The other thing is that he's not going to over row here. So he's stopping when his arm is about parallel with his body. Some people can get away with a little bit more, but go ahead too far. He actually moves pretty well with his shoulders, which is amazing because when you look at him, you wouldn't think he would.
Shut up.
But can you like exaggerate and kind of show that shoulder kick forward? So this will happen. People will go into Macho Man, or their shoulder will kick forward, and that's not good. So you want to stop people typically when their arm is parallel to their body, okay? Now we're going to go into a chest-supported row. So we use the chest-supported row in a couple of different ways. One would be if we really want to load the bent over row and give someone support at their chest, hence chest supported row. But this could also be a good opportunity to just teach someone the position for a true bent over row. So the first one that we'll show is a true chest supported row, which will be Todd kind of lying down on the bench. He's going to grab a hold of those dumbbells, put his weight really into the bench, his feet are back, and he's going to do some rows from here. Now, the same principles as the inverted row. Hopefully you can hear me over his yelling. These weights are very heavy for him. Same principles. He's going to stop. Go ahead and do one and pause at the top. He's going to stop when his upper arm is about parallel to his body.
Caressing me, freak.
And, and he's good there, okay? Now, if I wanted to use this as a reference point to teach him the bent over row, we could do the same thing, but have him actually walk forward. He'll have to lower this. This might be, he might need like a little bit of an in-between step here because that's really bent over, but we're going to go with this for now. So we'd probably want to put like a pad here for someone Todd's height, as the next one was probably too high. But essentially, let's go ahead and come up a little bit and pretend that the bench is like right there. So my fist is here, and he's using this, just lightly touching it. He's not really laying his weight into it like he is right now. He's just lightly touching it. And the test is that he should be able to rise up out of this position at any time. Now, why do we use this? Because when people are learning to do bent over rows, common mistakes we'll see is that they actually like heave the weight up by standing up a little bit with it and throwing it there. By maintaining constant light contact with the bench, we know that we're locked into a good position the entire time. And then between sets, you can stretch out your hammies like that. Don't want to pull a hammy. That would not be good, okay? So that would be a bent over row progression or regression. And we went from chest supported row to chest reference row. And now we're going to go to a standing bent over row. We're going to do that with dumbbells. Now, this would be the same with a barbell, because like all the exercises we're showing really here, a bent over row is a bent over row, is a bent over row, is a bent over row. I like to say that because Todd says it, and then makes me feel smart because he's smart. So a bent over row, is a bent over row, is a bent over row. So actually, a good RDL is going to come into play here. So he's going to start tall and tight. He reaches into his RDL position and then locks. And then from here, all the same principles of our row come into play. And then when he's done, he could set them down like that, or he could come back to a tall and tight position and walk them to the rack. Okay? Next, we're going to go on to single arm row variations. So we're going to pull this bench back out. We're just going to flatten this bad boy down. And we'll use, probably the most common one that we use is a 3-point row. Now, 3 points meaning 1, 2, and then hand on the bench. 3. Wrong 3-point. There you go. Yep. Okay? And what we're looking for here is just that he still is in a relatively good hinge position, but he has this arm further out for support. So I've seen the guys at CFSC will actually have someone goblet squat down and then drop forward to the bench to make sure they're in a good position. That works as well, whatever works for you. But 1, 2, 3 points of support. It's going to be very, very similar if you're also doing knee on the bench, a traditional single arm row. But the principles are the same. You're only going to row until that arm is about parallel to the body. We don't want to over row, and we don't want to throw ourselves into Macho Man as we do this. Okay? Next, we're going to go on to pull-up progressions. So for this, Todd's going to take, this is a jungle gym. You could do this with the TRX. And he's going to bring these things up so they are about chest height. And we're going to go through what's called level 1, level 2, and level 3 chin-ups. So for level 1, he's essentially going to squat straight down. And the idea is that he has a straight line from his hands down through his hips, and he's going to try and stay as upright as possible like a true pull-up. And he's going to rotate the handles, and he's going to finish in a chin-up with his palms facing towards his collarbones. Go ahead. So this variation of a chin-up allows him to use his legs to help himself. As he gets stronger at that, he can go to a level 2, which now he's just pulling less of his body weight, but a little bit harder than that level 1. Same exact principles apply. He's going to pull up and then back down. Okay? And then level 3, he's actually going to kick his feet up onto the bench. He's going to wind up in a little bit more of like a V here, and now he's pulling even more of his body weight. Okay? Level 1, level 2, level 3 chin up. And then typically, if people can build up decent volume in those, they come right here, and they can progress that to a chin up, pull up. Now you can use that. We just showed everything with chin up. You can do that as a pull-up as well, and it could also be done with a barbell in a rack as opposed to the handles. But the handles typically feel better on the shoulders. So now, it's Todd's way of saying, get this bench out of my way. He's very violent. He's going to get into a good dead hang position, and then he's going to come up from here. So now, we're still watching this tall and tight position. I'm watching his midsection to make sure that when he goes to hang, he doesn't shoot into Macho Man. So he's nice and compact through here. He's got his feet out in front of him a little bit. Why are you shaking now?
That's hard for me.
And then he's going to pull straight up and over the bar. Okay?
Let me do it again.
Let's do one more. Yeah. So we don't need to exaggerate it and get into like an extreme like gymnastics hollow body position, but we want to make sure that he's in a good tall and tight position through here, and he's pulling himself up from that. Cool? Anything you want to add?
Sorry that I farted.
Sorry that you farted. It didn't hit me yet, so I'm going to walk away.